Hey, talk to Gemara. We are just about closing in on finishing Maseches Gittin. Bez Hashem will be able to finish today, and we're discussing the Gemara of Chazaka Ein Isha Me'iza Panel Bifnei Baila. So I just want to see where we should back up to, so we could start at the beginning of an Indian. So let's go back to the two dots, almost halfway up on the Amid of Peites Amid base. I don't have sound. Let me see if I do have sound.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba said, Sholchulei mibei Rav l'Shmuel. They sent from Rav's camp to Shmuel. Yilamdeini Rabbeinu. Remember, in Rav's camp, they would dismiss rumors. In Shmuel's camp, they would not dismiss rumors. And they asked the following question. Yilamdeini Rabbeinu. Yotza aleh koil meirishon. There was a koil that a woman was married, was mikudeshes to Reuven. Uba'achav v'kitcha kiddushay Torah. And then Shimon came along and was makadesher. So there's two Adam. There's no rumor. We saw a real kedushin that Shimon made on her. Ma, what is the Allah? Shalach lahu. He sent them back. And of course, even though in Rav's area they didn't give so much credibility to rumors, Toshvus tells us that Shmuel had to paskin based on what he held, even though he was paskening towards people who were in Rav's area. And he said, Teitzei, first, don't let her live with anybody. The Hamidu Hadavar al Boria. And let's figure out precisely what had occurred. The Haidi Uni, and let me know. So let's figure out. We know the second Kedushin from Shimon was a real Kedushin. Let's see exactly what this rumor is about her Kedushin to Reuben prior. So what exactly did Shmuel want to clarify, and what difference would have been made if things were clarified? So Ilema, the Imegalia Milsa, the Kiddushe de Kama, Lav Kedusha Ma'al Yininu, if what he was suggesting is, if after they look into it more carefully, they find out that the first Kedusha was really nothing, and he was suggesting then Mevatlin and Kala, you would totally ignore that coil, and she would be married to Shimon, and Shimon would then be able to make Nesuin. For the Gemara, that wasn't Shmuel's Shita, but Naharda Asrei de Shmuel. Naharda is where Shmuel was in control, and there they were not Mevatlin. And as Toshva says, Shmuel wouldn't even be able to paskin for people from Surah, for people from Rav's area, against what he himself held. Ella, so what was he looking for? Maybe he was looking for the opposite. The Megalia Milso, the Kedusha Kama Kedushi Ma'al Yininu, if they were able to verify with Adam ultimately that Reuven's Kedushin was a good Kedushin, and therefore Shimon's Kedushin is invalid, maybe it would give us such clarity that Loitzricha get Misheni. She wouldn't even need a get from Shimon because it would be clear that she was Reuven's wife. Zok to Gemara upligi Rafuna. If in fact that's what Shmuel held, that she wouldn't even need a get from Shimon because it would be so clear that she was married to Reuven, that would not be consistent with what Rav Huna said. The Amar Rav Huna, a woman who accepts kedushin from another man, that's a very strong act of defiance against her husband if she was married or known to be married to somebody else up until that point. And therefore, mikudeshes, you say she's mikudeshes, because it's an act of defiance that clearly shows that she must have already received her get from the first husband. A woman wouldn't be so defiant as to marry another man unless she actually received her get from her first husband that we might not have known about. Rav Hamnuna who taught us that women are not going to be so defiant. But Rav Hamnuna was referring to a different case. Rav Huna is applying it to a case where a woman is Mekabel Kedusha. But Rav Hamnuna said, if a woman told her husband to his face, "You divorced me," nemenis, she is nemenis. We won't say that she's lying, even if her husband says, "What are you talking about? I never gave you a get." Because chazaka and isha me'iza paneh b'fnei bayim. A woman would never have such audacity to tell him to his face, to tell her husband to his face, that she's not megureshes. And therefore, say to her face that he is megureshes, that she is megureshes, in fact she wasn't. So too, Rav Huna wants to stretch it and say, not only if she tells him to his face, "You divorced me," but even if she publicly accepts kedushin from somebody else, that's also an act of defiance that a woman would not be me'isa unless it was true. And that would be inconsistent with Shmuel, because Shmuel says, we assume that there was no get given, and therefore we're going to say that she doesn't even need a get from the second person. The idach, and what about Shmuel, who disagrees with that? Shmuel holds that even though she was makabel kedushin from the second man, from Shimon, we don't automatically say she must have received a get from the Rishon, and therefore we let her go back to the Rishon, and we don't even require a get from the Sheni, which is what the Gemara is proposing, which Shmuel said. Zok Gemara, because ki itma de Ramnuna, Shmuel holds that Rav Hamnuna's halach that a woman is trusted to say she received the get. That's befanav. That's if she's telling her husband to his face, "You divorced me." But shaloi befanav. But if it's thank you so much. But if it's shaloi befanav, but if it's not to his face, like here she was makabel kedushin, but he wasn't necessarily there. He wasn't one of the Eda kedushin. He doesn't know about it. That's not such an act of defiance. Me'iza, and it's possible, in fact, that she would lie. So therefore, the fact that she was now makabel kedushin from Shimon doesn't really mean that much, and therefore we'll say that it'll be obvious that since we've proven that she was married to Reuven, she doesn't even need a get from Shimon. Tosfos discusses a case where a woman, there was a rumor about it that she was married to Reuven before she was married to her current Shimon, but the rumor was also that her husband Reuven was by the wedding. He was invited to the wedding. So there, as an added support, because that makes it like me'izo, because she's getting married right in front of her old husband. What would have happened if loy matu davar abay? What if they weren't able to clarify whether or not the rumor that she was married to Reuven is valid or not? Now, what would they have done? Amar Afuna, the psak would have been megarish rishon. She has to get a get from Reuven, v'noisei sheni, and we saw that she was makabel kedushin from Shimon, so we let her get nesuin to Shimon. That's the only way you could do it. We would not allow her to receive a get from Shimon and then go marry Reuven. Below that, we wouldn't allow. My timer, people are going to see that and think that there's wrongdoing. And we never leave a situation where it's perceived by the public that there's wrongdoing, even if in fact there is no wrongdoing. But if it could be perceived that there's wrongdoing, we will not allow that to happen. Because also, people are going to say that she was married to Reuven, and Reuven must have given her a get. We know she got married to Shimon, and now Shimon's giving her a get. And now she's going back to Reuven again, which is an Isur D'Oraisa of Machzor Grushasoi, Mishanisis or Mishaniskacho. So therefore, we won't let her marry the first husband, only the second. No, we would even allow her to accept the get from Shimon and go back and do the suin with Reuven. You know why? People are not going to say this was Machzor Grushasoi. People are going to interpret the facts differently. Meimer Amri, they're going to say she probably was never married to Shimon. Aini Rabbanan b'kedushay. Maybe the Rabbanan looked more closely at the ring that was used or at some other issue involved in the kedushin. The kedusha tosu, the kedusha tosava, and maybe it was never a kedushin. And that's what people are going to say, rather than say that it was a good kedushin and now she's megureshes. Gewaltig. Gewaltig. We're requiring a get. At the end, we're saying she has to receive a get from Shimon before she can go back and marry Reuven. Rashi tells us we're not worried about that. We're not worried about that because people maybe won't necessarily talk about the get. Okay? Let's see what Rashi's over here. I knew Rabban Kedushin, Sheni, V'lav Kedushin. Maybe they're not Kedushin. They won't say that there was a get. We do require that she gets a get from Shimon. We do require that, but not necessarily everyone know about it. Maybe it's not done so publicly. They just see that she goes back and lives with Ruvain. So what they'll say is that there was probably a Kedusha Toyas in the second Kedusha. Beautiful. Rabbi Shina Bereda Vidi Amar, Abnagar Sheni B'Nosh Rishon, Memor Amar, and you're going to be Kedusha, Kedusha Toyas. Now, what about Yotzala Kol Mizabus? The case that was asked of Shmuel was it wasn't a coil from Shimon, it was actual Edim that she was Makabel Kedushin from Shimon. What if there's a coil that she was married to Ruvain and also that she was married to Shimon? What do? Mal. Amar Papa Avsu Megarish Rishon B'Nosh Sheni. In this case as well, we allow her to marry the Shimon, not Ruvain. Amemar Amar, in this case, it would be Muteris L'Shneim, similar to the same discussion we had with Rab Shinina. The Hilchasa and the Loch is Halach Lamaisa Muteris L'Shneim. She would be allowed to be married to either one. She can marry either one. As Rashi's claimer, Af Megar Sheni B'Nosh Rishon, Afilu Rafuna Maidabaha, and Rafuna would agree in a case where it was only a rumor in the first place that she was married to the second man as well. Beautiful. Zog to Gemara weiter. Beis Shammai Omer, Anaya Mishnah, the last Mishnah of the Perek, and the last Mishnah of the Masechta. Beis Shammai Omer, Lo Yigarish Adam Es Ishtoi, Ella in Kain Matzah Bodvar Erva. We've talked all about how a get works. Now we're going to try to understand why someone should give a get. He should only give a get if he found in his wife a dover erva, which means he saw that she was mizana. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk that introduces the parsha of Gerushin, he didn't like her. Why didn't he like her? The only reason why a man wouldn't like his wife is because he saw erva stuff. Even if she merely burnt his dish. And Rashi tells us that there's two ways for a dish to be spoiled if it got burnt. Either if it was literally burnt, you let it stay on the fire too long, or it became too salty, you overspiced it. That's also called hikdiach tavshilai. Shenemar ki matzah ba erva stuff.
But she served him.
No, maybe not. Maybe she said, it's burnt, I'm not serving you. And he remained hungry.
Okay. It's a different
What if she didn't burn it, but she says, on the way home, pick up some takeout? So the halach is, if you notice, they're both using the same pasuk to teach them different things. So Rashi just gives us a little insight of Beis Hillel. Ervas davar leBeis Hillel mashmalu oy erva oy shar davar sirchay. So Rishami says ervas davar is one thing, and Beis Hillel is either ervas or davar or anything else. Rabbi Kiva Aimer, never mind if she did anything wrong, even if she did nothing wrong at all, even if he found a wife who was more beautiful, say if there's no erva, and say if there's no davar, you're still allowed to divorce your wife. So we're going to learn later on, the Gemara is going to tell us that Rabbi Kiva's approach to the pasuk is, if he still didn't like her, or if kimatza ba'erva stuff. So the Simcha Chen Be'enov is merely that he no longer likes her. Zokt the Heilige Gemara. Tanya we learned. Amar Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel told Beis Shammai, how can you tell me that only for a dvar erva are you allowed to divorce your wife? But like Farnemar Dova, it says Dovar already. So erva is erva and Dovar is Dovar. Amar Beis Shammai v'haloik Farnemar Eidos. The ervas, it says ervas. So how could you ignore ervas, which was mashvir to dvar erva? Amar Beis Hillel im nemar ervas v'loy nemar dover. If it would only say kimatzu be'ervas and it wouldn't have said ervas dover, then I would agree with you. Hayisi mishum erva teitze mishum dover loy teitze. Lakach nemar dover. It says ervas dover. There's an extra word there to teach us that even a non-erva the reason such as a Ptiach Tafshila. V'ilo nemar davar, v'loi nemar erva. If it said davar and it didn't say erva, then v'loi ervas, I would have said, mishum davar tinase la'acher. If he just is divorcing her for any old reason, like she burnt his dish, then he could divorce her, but she's allowed to marry another husband. But umishum erva. But if she was actually mizana, then loiti nasi la'acher. Maybe, sure, he can divorce her, but maybe a woman like that wouldn't even be allowed to remarry. She would lose the privilege of marriage because she violated her first marriage. L'kach nemer ervas. Therefore, it's an ervas to tell you that even if he was releasing her because of an ervas, he could still give her a get, and the yatzami beisai v'holcha v'hoisalish acher, she's still allowed to marry another man. Uvei Shammai, hi davar, my avdilai. According to Bishamai, why did it say davar? It should only say ervas, because it's only ervas that allows a man to divorce his wife. So the Gemara never kan davar, never lahalan davar. It says davar when it's talking about gerushin. It also says davar when it's talking about dinim mominis. I'll be shnei edim, or I'll be shloish edim yokim davar. Malalon b'shnei edim. Just like in order to prove a davar shebe mominis, you need two edim. Afkan, so to here b'shnei edim, you need two edim. So Vishama is saying that it's not considered a dvar erva only if there's two edim. Zok Gemara ubeis Hillel miksiv erva ba davar. It doesn't say that there was a dvar erva that was verified with davar, meaning with two edim. It says ervas davar, meaning it will be two independent things. Ubeshamai miksiv oy erva oy davar. It doesn't say that either. According to Ubeis Hill, that it's two separate things. It should say oy erva oy davar, but it combines them. It says ervas davar. Ubeis Hillel lahachiksiv ervas davar. It has as a nusach that sounds like it's a separate thing, but it also is somewhat combined. The mashmahachi. So therefore, I'm able to learn two things out of it. I could learn two things out of it, as Rashi Ubeis Nami. Of course, I also learn that if she is mizana and it's proven with Adam that he has to divorce her, I'll also agree to you that he's only forced to divorce his wife if we have an ervas davar, if we have two Adam that had verified, in fact, that she was mizana. Why does it say ervas davar? Erva ba davar, which is what Basil said it should say if you require two Adam to verify the erva. Nami oy ervas oy davar, which would be the right thing to say if a davar by itself is a reason to divorce. Because we want to tanz by zwei chasanas. We want to be able to say both drushes. The mishtama erva oy davar. So it's mashma that, but it's also mashma nami erva ba davar, that in order to prove it for erva, there has to be two Adam. Gewaltig. Let's see Tosfos. Zok Tosfos. I believe Mala Halon be'edim brudim. You need to have edim brudim. Zok Tosfos. The Yerushalmi Parach. The Yerushalmi asks a very interesting question. Amai itzrich kra. Why would I need a pasuk that tells me the lo yuchal baila asher shilcha loshiv lekachta? Why do I ever need the iser of machzor grushas? According to Beis Shammai, that the only reason why someone could divorce his wife is if he found in her an ervas davar, where she's a sur lebal ulaboyel. That's why we force him to divorce. Why bechlal do we need the iser of? Why bechlal do we need the iser of machzor grushasa? Typically, the belavachi aser lahachzor seitasa. If the only reason why he's allowed to divorce his wife is because she was mizana, whether she marries anybody or not, he still can't take her back because she's a soita. She was mizana tachtas. So the fact that she gets married to somebody else, what does that add? What does that add to the mix? Kivin sheyesh edim, right? According to Beis Shammai, you could only divorce your wife if there's edim that she was mizana. If there was edim and she was mizana, so he can't marry her anyway, even if she doesn't marry anywhere else. So why do you need the issue of machzor grushasa?
It could be even the suspicion there.
No, that's not what Bishama holds. Bishama holds Ervas Dover. You need to have Eidim Berudim that say for sure she was Mazana, and then you're free to divorce her, but that's the only time you're allowed to divorce her. So, if that's the case, why do you need Isra Machshir B'Shasai? Even before she marries anybody else, she's automatically also to him forever. Umashani Efrentaisis, Laver Olav Bebeis Lav. You'll be over to Lavan. If you just divorce her, you're not allowed to marry her again because the same reason why you have to divorce her in the first place. She was a Saita. But if she marries somebody else and you take her back, then you'll get 2 times Malchus because you're doing 2 Averis. That's right. Freiter B'Kiveger, a bomba de Gakash. That's why I'm doing this Toshis because I love her Kivegers. It's the last, we have our last shot of her Kiveger in Maseches Gittin. Zokt Regili Nashas, Koshali. I don't understand. You won't have 2 Malchus. There won't be 2 Malchus. Hey Chach Isser, Machsed Rushosai, Hey Chal Isser, Machsed Rushosai, Al Isser Saita. How in the world, there's a rule, Ein Isser Chal Al Isser. If there's already an Isser Lav for him to stay married to this woman, so how could there be another Lav piling up on top of it? Ein Isser Chal Al Isser. Now there's 2 ways where Isser is Chal Al Isser. Either through Isser Koila or through Isser Moisef. Either if the Isser includes more women, the Isser asks more women than just his wife. In this case, that wouldn't happen. Machzor Rishasei only makes this woman Oshertin. Or Isser Moisef, it creates a more serious Isser, which this doesn't either. In either case, it's just a laugh. V'loimar, to have Xeris HaKosov, and to say that there's Xeris HaKosov, that Dafki in this case, you would say that Isser is Chalal Isser, Minalezeh. Where do you get such a thing from? Hayesh Loimar, Zokt Toishvis, the Tzorech Kra, Lahecha, the Bo Eidi Azama, the Hezimu, Laeidi Atum. What if there were Eidim that said she was Mazana? We forced him to divorce, and then she married somebody else, and she didn't get along with the second husband either, and she got divorced. Then Eidi Azama came and proved that she was really never Mazana in the first place. So his whole marriage only disintegrated because of a mistake. Klum dechois, he didn't have to give her the get, but he did give her the get. And now that he gave her the get and she remarried, now you have the Aveira of Machzor Grushosei.
It's really a get al Tanai, an unspoken Tanai.
It wasn't a Tanai, it was forced.
But really,
that's right.
misinformation.
The Ayin Rav B'Tshuva Simon Tov Kuf Nun Zayin, and I don't know what it says there. V'tzorech li in gadol. This is a real problem for me. Zok Rebbe Kiveger. It's a beautiful. It's a very obvious question. Why, if you're only allowed to divorce your wife if she's a Saita, then why do you need the halacha of Machzor Grushosei to prohibit you from taking your wife back? You wouldn't be able to take her back anyways.
Have an answer.
Okay.
Have an answer.
What's the answer?
Because Beis Shammai paskin like Beis Hillel. The question is only applicable to Beis Shammai.
Oh,
It says I'm being machmir, but really they know that people are going to pass like Beis Hillel.
I hear.
So that answers.
Very good. Very good. There are those who learn that could be the Kimotza Be'eres Dover is not a lav, it's only an Isra say. That he's not allowed to live with a woman who is Mizah. Amar Lei Rav Papa L'Rav. Rav Papa comments the Rav. Loi Matzaba, Loi Erva, V'loi Dover Mah. What if he doesn't like her anymore? They fell out of love. Irreconcilable, what is the word? Irreconcilable differences. But there's nothing specific. Amar Lei, Midigali Rachmana Gabi Oinus. The Torah tells us that if someone is ma'anas a woman, lo yuchal l'shalcha kol yamav, that woman he's never allowed to be megarish. And we learned that even if he's megarish her, he's mechuyev to take her back. Kol yamav ba'moid v'hachzer koi. Every day he's violating an isser not to take her back. If he wasn't allowed to divorce in the first place, we can make a deal. Hasamu degali rachmana. Only over there, the Torah tells us that he has to take her back. He gave her a get for no good reason, but and it was improper what he did, but once he had given her the get, it's already mugureshes, and he does not have to take her back. Which also answers Rabbi Kiveger's kasha, because sure, you're only supposed to divorce for Erev Dover, but if you did anyway, it would have the same results. What if the man decides in his heart, I'm divorcing my wife? But he didn't tell her. He's keeping it to himself, and he's having fun with her. He's having fun with her, even though he's already decided that he's going to divorce her. Mahu, what do you call a lowlife like that? So Al techrish al re'echa ra. Don't be thinking bad for your friend. Here you're going to be divorcing your wife. You've already decided you're divorcing your wife. But you're playing it off as if everything is hunky-dory. And you're not telling her that your intention is to divorce her. That's taking advantage of a person. That's incorrect. That's not the right thing to do. Tanya, we learned. Rab Meir said, just like people have different tastes. Some people like their food spicy, and some people like their food sweet, and some people like their meat rare, and some people like their meat well done. There's different attitudes that people have towards their wives who are not behaving perfectly, properly, and possibly getting slightly involved in the Dvar Erva parsha. You can have a person that even if a fly falls into his becher, he'll throw it away. He won't want to drink the kais. Once a fly fell in, he's ready for echoed. He won't touch the kais. V'zui midas Papus ben Yehuda. This was the midah of Papus ben Yehuda. That whenever he left the house, he was so afraid that someone might look at his wife or talk to his wife. He literally isolated her from everybody. Whenever he had to leave the house, he would lock her in so nobody should get near her. That's a little bit of an extreme. He's a more moderate. If a fly falls into his kais, he'll take the fly out, throw it in the garbage, but he will drink the kais. That's normal. He has no problem if she talks with her brothers and her relatives. And he'll let her. He's not going to isolate her from everybody. She's allowed to talk to people as long as it's in an appropriate fashion. And then you have people who are on the other end of the spectrum. The zvuv falls into the serving plate. He sucks it out so that although he won't eat the fly, but he wants to squeeze out any of the kosher juice from it, and he'll eat it. And zui midas adam ra, that's a bad person. He sees his wife running around in the shuk, gallivanting around and making herself seen and known and noticed in a non-synesthetic fashion, and turning over on Talmud Beis. Uferuma mishteit tadeh. Rashi says this sounds like she has she's wearing sleeveless, so the hole where her arms come out of are actually exposing the sides of her body as well. Rashi says kederech adoymiyos, the people of Edom who live in France, should be near Mitzidean, their dresses are open on the sides, that you can see the side of their body. Very unsneistic. And she bathes with other people. Frek to Gemara, that's a little bit too much. That no one's going to accept. Are you telling me if she's actually bathing with other people, even someone who is a shtickle manuvel himself won't mind? That's literally seeing his wife being a zoina. Zok to Gemara, no. She goes mixed swimming. She doesn't actually bathe together with another man, but she'll be in a place where there's other men there. Rashi says, she'll go into the pool while there are men sitting around the pool, but she won't go in the pool when there are other men there. Frag to Gemara, zu mitzvah min haTorah lagarsha. This type of woman, this third type of woman who acts inappropriate, it's a mitzvah deraisa to divorce such a woman. Shenemar ki matzah ba ervas davar v'shelcha mibeisai v'halcha v'haisa lishach. Now the Torah says something interesting. The Torah says he divorces her. Who does she marry? This woman who just got thrown out on her head because she was a prutza. Who does she marry? She marries an ish acher. Why did the Torah call him an ish acher? Because of kari acher, he's a foreigner. Why is he a foreigner? Loimar she'ein zeh ben zugay l'rishon. Clearly, these two men, the first husband and the second husband, are different types of people. Zeh haitzi rishon mi beisai. This fellow threw a woman out because she was clearly a woman who doesn't behave properly. And you know what someone else said? One man's trash is another man's treasure. He treasured a woman who behaves in such a fashion. That's a nishacher. Zocha Sheni, if the second guy comes to his senses and he's zoicha to realize that he shouldn't be living with a woman who's not behaving properly, shilcha, he will divorce her as well. Shenemar, as the pasuk continues and says, Usneya ha'isha acharai. What if her second husband doesn't like her? Surprise, surprise. Vimlav, and if he will keep her and he'll be happy with a woman, a wife who behaves in such a fashion, koiv rasoi, he is going to die because he remains married to her. Shenemar, it says, oichiyamus ha'isha acharai. Kedai hu b'misa, he deserves to die. Shezeh haitzi rishami beisai. Here, Reuven chased this woman out of his house because she acted inappropriately. Is that hechnis rishos at beisai? And it's that prutza. He couldn't find anyone else to marry, but that prutza, that shows he's not such a good guy either. Of course, this is not referring to a woman who did tshuva and who mended her ways, but that's only according to Beis Shammai. According to Beis Hillel, she's not necessarily a risha because she was divorced. According to Rabbi Kiva, not either. It's only according to Beis Shammai that a woman is only sent away if there was a dvara. It says in the pasuk, I think the pasuk is in Eoy, I think. Let me see where it is. It's in Malachi. I'm sorry. Pasuk says in Malachi, Ki sonei shalach. It's part of a longer pasuk. Ki sonei shalach. Amar Hashem Elokei Yisrael. Someone who's hated or who hates is sent away. Rabbi Yehuda learns trying this pasuk. Im tzinasa shalach. If you hate her, you shall send her away. Who holds that if you just don't like your wife for whatever reason, you're allowed to divorce her? That was the shita of Rabbi Kiva. So Rabbi Yehuda is dashing the pasuk according to Rabbi Kiva. If you don't like her, you can send her away. But Rabbi Yochanan learns, and Rashi's goes differently than what our Gemara reads here. Rashi's goes im senua hi lefnei hamakayim shalach. If she's hated by the Rebbeinu Shloim, then send her away. Meaning, he's going according to the Shita of Beis Shammai, who says that it's only for Dvar Erva. But there's an argument of Sonu HaMishaleach. If you send her away for a reason that's not appropriate, like just because you don't like her, then the Mishaleach is suddenly the husband is hated because he did something. He's hated by the Rebbeinu Shalom because he did something that wasn't right. Okay? But it's not a machlokes. Ha b'zivug rishon, ha b'zivug sheni. But a zivug rishon, that's a very special marriage. And there's actually a shaila if that means it was his first wife, or if it means they both were virgins when they got married. He was a bach and she was a psula. It's called Eshes Neurim. That's a very special relationship that's unparalleled. That you should not send away only if there's real problems. However, the Zivik Sheni, that there's not such a bond, there's not such a love, that's someone who it's appropriate that you could divorce for other reasons. Rabbi Lozer said, if someone is Megarsh's first wife, and again it's a child if it means only if they were both single and tenacious Nu'urim, where there's a special bond, or it could mean it was his first wife, even though she might have been married before, but for him it was his first wife. Afilu Mizbeach, Morid Alav Demois. Even the Mizbeach cries tears for him. I had a friend who got divorced, and when he got divorced, he asked somebody, I don't want to divorce my wife, and I should cause that the Mizbeach is Morid Demois. So his Rav told him, Besser soll the Mizbeach weinen, wie du soll weinen, und sie soll weinen, besser soll the Mizbeach weinen. So afilu Mizbeach Morid of the Moish. Shenemar v'zoish shenis tasu. So the pasuk is scolding men for abandoning their wives. This is also in that same set of psuchim in Malachi that we're quoting here. V'zoish shenis tasu. They did something else. K'sois nima, when they abandoned their wives who they loved, what happened was they had their wives, their Eshes Neurim, and throughout the Churban, their wives became a little, rugged. Their skin wasn't so nice, and their hair wasn't so nice, and they aged, and they saw nice Goyish women who looked beautiful. So what they would do is they didn't have the decency to divorce their wives and marry these women. They kept their wives, but they had on the side some other wives who they doted on, who they paid attention to, these more beautiful shikses. So that caused sois dima is mizbach Hashem b'chiva anoka. Because of that, these women were crying on the mizbeach. Why is it that you're abandoning me? We're your faithful wives, and you're abandoning us. And because of that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was angry at these men. Me'ein oid penois ela mincha. The Rebbeinu Shalom stopped looking to accept, to love the karbonos that Klal Yisrael brought them. V'lakachas rotem yetchem. V'amartem alma. And now you're going to ask me, why is it that you're not accepting my karbonos anymore barotzen? And the Kadosh Baruch Hu answered, Al ki Hashem heyed beincha uvein eshes nurecha, because Hashem sees how you're treating your wonderful wife of your youth. Asher ato bagadet, and now you have been boiged. What's the English word for boiged? And now you have you rebelled on her. You stabbed her in the back. You in Yiddish it's called widerspenigen.
Betrayed.
What's that?
Betrayed.
Betray. Oh, that's right. You betrayed her. So we'll keep the last four words. Mitchell, I'm making a siyum right after Shachris, so we'll have a less of a tachman. And we have to tell all the million we don't say tachman day. So we'll stop here, and we're going to quickly jump into the Mishnah of Kedushin. I was not able to find here in the room lying around a Gemara Kedushin. You have a Gemara Kedushin? So let's quickly start the Gemara Kedushin. Okay, we'll just learn the first bit of it. Zok the Heilige Gemara. A woman could be purchased, could be acquired, and the Gemara gets into why we're referring to the word kinyan when we're speaking about a woman. And she could be koine herself with two ways. She could be niknis with kesef, shtar, and bia. Bekesef. If you're makalish a woman with kesef, you give her kesef and you say, Aret mukadeshes li. How much does the value of it have to be? We already learned it can't be pits that still have flesh on them because they might not be worth enough. So b'sham yoimim b'dinner uv'shavadin. It has to be a dinner. I don't know what the current day value of a dinner is of kesef, but it's probably probably a good couple of $100.
A lot of inflation these days. Dinner's about $200.
What did it say?
I said there's a lot of inflation. If you're going to take your wife out, dinner's about $200.
I hear. Okay.
Dinner is a Bitcoin.
Okay. Uvesil laimrim bepruto v'shava pruto. Even a pruta or a shava pruta. V'chamehi pruta. How much is a pruta? Echad mishmoine be'isar atalki. The isar atalki must have been a coin that was more common in those days, and a pruta is 1/8. It has the value of 1/8 of an isar atalki. Now the koine asatzma. If you notice, the Mishnah doesn't delve into what a star is and what bia is. A star is you write on the star haret mukadeshusli and you give it to her, and the star doesn't have to be worth anything at all, because if the star had value, then the star could act as shavak kesef as well. So the star would be useless. Or bia is obvious what that is. The kanyas atzma beget uvamisis aval. How could she be kanya herself back? Either if she receives a get from her husband, or if her husband dies. And everybody knows that Rabbi Akiva Eger once gave a husband a choice. He gave him a choice of how he would want his wife to leave, because he was recalcitrant and he refused to give a get. So Rabbi Akiva Eger told him, you could choose which way your wife's going free, but she's going free. Do you choose to give her a get, or do you choose Mrs. Abal? And this guy was a mechutzif, and he told Rabbi Akiva Eger, if you think that I'm going to give my wife a get, you're mistaken. And he turned around and he walked out, and on the steps leaving Rabbi Akiva Eger's house, he had a heart attack and died. So he must have chosen Mrs. Abal. Hayavama niknis bivia. Hayavama, unlike a regular woman, she could only be niknis b'deraisa with bia, which is yibum, and the kanyas atzma b'chalitza v'Mrs. Yavama. Now, once a yavama does yibum, does bia, she's a regular eshishish, and she goes back to the kanyas atzma beget uv'Mrs. Abal, just like any other woman. But before she did yibum, is there any other way to discharge the zika if she doesn't want to do yibum? The kanyas atzma b'chalitza. Either if her brother-in-law does chalitza, or uv'Mrs. hayavam, or if the yavam dies, of course, and there's no other yavam, of course there is no more zika. Zok tehil gemar b'ayter. Ha'isha niknis. It says ha'isha niknis. Maish nahaka. the Tanya Isha Niknis. Why did he use a lotion of Niknis when in the second parak, when we're describing a marriage, it says, the Tanya Ish Mekadesh. It describes a marriage as a kedushin, not as a kinyan. Zok Gemara, I'll tell you why. Mishum de kaboy lemis nekesef. One of the main methods of kedushin is through kesef. The kesef minolam. And how do we know that you could be mekadesh a woman of kesef? Because Gomar kicha mistei Ephraim. We learn from the purchase that Avram Avinu bought the land for the Maras Machpelah from Ephraim. It used the lashon of kicha there. And we learned that whatever happened there happens by the kicha of an isha. So the Torah describes the transaction of marriage as a kicha, as taking a wife. And in regarding the transaction, when the Maras Machpelah was originally bought, it says Nasati Kesef Asada Kach Mimeni. So the Gemara learns that there's a connection in the transaction that was done to purchase the Ma'aris HaMachpelah first compared to the transaction that one must do when he marries a woman. And we know the kicha ikri kinyan. We know that the kicha that Avram Avinu did when he acquired the Ma'aris HaMachpelah, it was a kinyan, because the Torah says later on, Siv Asada Asher Kana Avram, the field that Avram purchased. So clearly, that kicha there was a kinyan. Therefore, the Kiddushay Kesef, when someone's Mekadesh a woman, it's also considered a kinyan, and that's why our Mishnah starts off with Ha'isha Niknis B'shloisha Drachim. Inami, or there's another place where you see that buying a field such as a Ma'aris Machpelah is considered a kinyan, because it says Sadois B'kesef Yiknu, therefore it says Tanya Isha Niknis. That's why it says Ha'isha Niknis. So it's funny that there's a discussion here. Is it called Kedushin? Is it called Kinyan? So they once three Bachrim that were asked, they were taking off a hair to get into Lakewood, and the Rosh Hashiva asked them, the question that I'm going to ask each of you is, where in the Rambam do you find Hilchas Ishus? So the Litvisha Bacher said right away, Kinyan, Isha Niknis, it's probably found in Kinyan. The Chassidish Bacher says, it's Kedusha, it's probably found in Kedusha. They asked him, why you guys, where do you think you find it? He says, it's marriage, it's Ahava. For sure you would find it in Ahava. And then they asked the Sfardim, what did he say? Probably in Ezekiel. So at least in our Gemara here today, we have a lot of Niknis and Mitzkadeshes. Okay? Mazel Tov, Rabbi Side, should be able to finish many more Masechtas together very soon. All the best.